And the last thing in this hadith, is لَعَنَ اللَّهُ مَنْ آوَى مُحْدِثًا. That the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on the one who pushes away an innovator. Who hosts or brings protection, covers or helps out an innovator. The first thing we need to understand from this aspect of the hadith is that this word muhdithan also refers to anyone doing any type of wrong deed. That if someone is doing something wrong, we don't support that deed. We don't awahu. We don't bring him into our house. We don't give him protection. Because if we are giving him protection, it's ar-ridha. It's a sign of being complacent and happy with this wrong deed. So the la'na is for the one who supports or protects anyone doing anything wrong, any type of transgression. And interesting, this word awa means to give this person protection and bring into your home per se. So subhanallah, how many things have we brought in our house that we know are wrong for the sake of our children and whatnot? These things bring the la'nat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first thing we learn from this hadith is that the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is for the one who protects anyone, gives them protection who's doing something wrong. If something is wrong, we have to qumu lil qist. We have to stand up for truth. وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. Interesting enough, the Quran says that we should stand up for truth even if it's against your own self. So this is the first message we need to understand from awa muhdithan. The next thing we need to understand is muhdith is a one that does bid'ah. Bid'ah. And we need to understand what bid'ah is. We need to understand what exactly is this word bid'ah. I don't think there is any Muslim who hasn't heard this word. Within the first week of accepting Islam, I think I heard this word. Even before I heard salah, I think I heard this word bid'ah. So you learn it very quick. What is bid'ah? So we need to, first thing I want to explain as we go into this concept of bid'ah, this is a concept many people don't understand. And to judge what is bid'ah and what isn't bid'ah is something many great ulama, great scholars have refrained from doing because it's such a difficult task. Saying what is bid'ah and what isn't bid'ah is a very, very difficult task. It's not for the awam, the common lay person who knows very little about deen. Read a few books, sat in a few classes, and now he's passing fatwa. No. This bid'ah, what is bid'ah and what isn't bid'ah is a very complex and deep science and field. But inshallah today, bi'idhnillah, you will get a lot of understanding on what bid'ah actually is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran uses this word bid'ah many times. وَمَا كُنْتُ بِدْعًا مِنَ الرُّسُلِ قُلْ مَا كُنْتُ بِدْعًا مِنَ الرُّسُلِ. Say to them that I am not anything new from the prophets. Allah is telling the Prophet ﷺ to tell them, I'm not new. Bid'ah. I am nothing new. I am like the prophets that have come before. بَدِيعُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. The originator, the creator of the heavens and earth. Badi'. This is the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Same word. Bid'ah. So, bid'ah is to make something without an example before. To make something new. Imam Shatibi, rahimahullah ta'ala, wrote an entire book called I'tisam. And in I'tisam, he discusses this concept of bid'ah. He gives a definition of bid'ah, which we all need to listen to and understand. And the reason why we're spending time on this is because this is a very important issue actually. Very important issue. So, everyone, if you have a comment or question, comments are more, I see that more often than questions, but if you have a comment, save it to the end, and then inshallah. Imam Shatibi says that bid'ah tariqatun fid-deen mukhtari'atun tudahi sharia, that bid'ah is a way in the deen, fid-deen, mukhtari'atun, created, new, that is trying to be similar to the actual sharia. Okay? يقصد بالسلوك عليها المبالغة في التعبد, that the person doing it, his intention is to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now in the hadith we have to understand that bid'ah is a very, very, very bad thing. Bad is not the word. Bid'ah is a way of leading to the hellfire. That Rasulullah ﷺ has said in the hadith that كُلُّ بِدْعَةٍ فِي ضَلَالَةٍ وَكُلُّ ضَلَالَةٍ فِي النَّارِ, that every bid'ah is misguidance, and every misguidance leads to the fire of hell. So bid'ah, some hadith say that when on Qiyamah, when the Kawthar, the pool of Kawthar is in front, and Rasulullah ﷺ is giving to drink the ummah, there will be some angels pushing people away. So Rasulullah ﷺ will say that ummati, ummati, this is someone from my ummah, leave him alone. The angels will say, no, you don't know what he started after you. Meaning he started a new bid'ah. Why is bid'ah so bad? Because it's changing the deen of Allah. It's changing the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. See, الْيَوْمَ أَكْمَلْتُ لَكُمْ دِينَكُمْ. The ayah, the last ayah, one of the last ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that today I have perfected your religion. You cannot change the religion. The way it is perfect. So, another hadith, مَنْ أَحْدَثَ فِي أَمْرِنَا, that whoever creates something new, فَهُوَ رَدٌّ, that this thing is rejected. So, the first thing we need to understand is that bid'ah, and subhanallah, one of the effects of bid'ah is that the ulama say, when a person leaves a sunnah, he brings in a bid'ah. In order to stay away from bid'ah, adapt the sunnah. This is the way to protect from bid'ah. Adapt the sunnah. When the sunnah comes, the opposite has to go. The bid'ah has to go. So, the first thing we learn is that this word bid'ah is general. It means anything new. Anything new. Our computers, our cars, all these things are new. Are they bid'ah? We'll understand more inshallah. We have to understand something. That for us to understand bid'ah, the first thing we have to know the hadith. We have to know Islam. Because bid'ah is anything contrary to the deen, correct? If you only read 2 or 3 books, if you only read one hadith book, how would you know that anything is bid'ah? How would you know yourself that this thing is against the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ? Personally, how would you know? You would not know. Because your knowledge is so limited that everything you're hearing, you've never read a hadith for it. So the first thing we need to understand, in order to judge and say something is bid'ah, you need to have a very deep knowledge of Sharia. For example, a brother will come sometimes and say such and such a thing is bid'ah, brother. He doesn't know there's a clear hadith on this thing. He's saying bid'ah, but because it's not in 2 books, he thinks this thing is bid'ah now. Because it's not in the 2 books he's familiar with. But there's a hadith of this thing. So the first thing we need to understand is that we need to have a deep knowledge of the Sharia in order to judge something as bid'ah. Next thing we need to understand, next point 2. There are certain things there was no need of them at the time of the Rasul ﷺ, but later those things, because of necessity, were put into deen. Those things are not bid'ah. There are certain things that were not at the time of Rasul, and the necessity was not there. The necessity was not there. but the necessity came later, so now that thing was brought up. That thing also is not bid'ah. That thing is not bid'ah also. I'll give you an example. And I hope, inshallah, we keep everyone's attention, because this will save a lot of misconception. This will save a lot of confusion if we just listen closely. At the time of Rasulullah ﷺ, there were many huffaz of the Quran. Sah? Correct? Good. In the battle of Mu'tah, what happened? After Rasulullah ﷺ, at the time of Abu Bakr, many of the huffaz of the Quran were shaheed. They were martyred. At that moment, Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu goes to Umar. And he says, Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he says, Umar, we have to do something. We have to write down the Quran altogether. Now let me clarify one other misconception that people may, Orientalists especially. The Quran was written entirely in the life of the Rasul. Completely. But put into one book? No. That happened in the incident I'm explaining right now. So now what happened? Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu comes to Umar and he says to him what? That we have to compile the entire Quran. What is the first thing Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu says? How can we do something that the Prophet ﷺ said we didn't do? We can't. Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu yuraddiru. He keeps telling him, we have to do this. We have to do this. For the sake of the deen, we have to do this. Until Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu says, my heart opened. And I realized. Now they go to Ubay bin Ka'b. That we need you to write the Quran. What's the first thing he says? How can we do something the Prophet never did? Now they're both talking to him. They're both convincing him, no, we have to do this. We have to do this thing. Until the Quran was compiled and put into a book. So, what do we see here? What we have to differentiate is between objectives, maqasid, and wasila. The means to something. I don't want to lose people here. But you have to understand this. It will give you a lot of sukoon and afiyah fi hayatik. A lot. I'll give you another example, and through these examples you'll understand something. At the time of the Sahaba, was there any dots on the Arabi? You know the dots? For a jim, where's the dot? A nukta. For a ba, for a ta, where's the dot? Were there any dots before? No dots. The dots were put later. Type. Harakat. Where we see the harakat on top of the ba, bi, bu. Were there any harakat before? No. It came at the time of Ali radiallahu ta'ala. Type. After. Abu Asad ad-Du'alli was the first to do this. Continuing. Nowadays, the juz. We have juz of Quran. The Quran is broken into juz. Were there juz at that time? No juz. The juz were put later for you to read easily in a month. We should use that. 5. Let's go to the next step. Maybe some of your kids have a color-coded Quran. Where did this come from? Brother, this is bid'ah. You're putting color into the Quran? The Rasul ﷺ never put color in the Quran. How are you doing this, brother? It's bid'ah. This brother has not understood the meaning of bid'ah. See, let me explain the difference between maqsad and wasila. Rasulullah ﷺ came to teach us, يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِ. He came to teach us how to read the Quran. So now, we have different means through which we are able to read the Quran. As long as these means are not specifically against the Sharia, these means are allowed to use. And we come to a term, everyone should write these terms down right here. Lid-deen and Fid-deen. Lid-deen means for the deen. Fid-deen means in the deen. A true bid'ah, which is wrong and leads to the fire of hell, is a bid'ah Fid-deen. When you change something in the religion. But brother, you're changing the Quran. You're changing the Quran. You're putting it into a book. Rasulullah ﷺ didn't do that. Even the putting the Quran together is lid-deen. Even the color-coded Quran is lid-deen, for the deen. For the deen. Once we understand the difference of for the deen and in the deen, you'll understand small concepts like the line on the floor. The line on the floor, I'll ask you, is it lid-deen or Fid-deen? It's lid-deen. Why? Why is the line there? It wasn't there at the time of the Rasulullah ﷺ. Brother, why are you doing that? For?
So you know where you're selected at.
To make the line straight. Because Rasulullah ﷺ said, make the lines straight. So the maqsad, the Rasul ﷺ said, make the line straight. Now whatever means you use to make the line straight, it's permissible to use as long as it's not directly going against something from the hadith or the Quran. I hope everyone understands this principle. Once you understand this principle of lid-deen and Fid-deen, you'll understand a lot of things. A lot of things. Now, we can look at many things now. Driving your car to the masjid. Fid-deen, lid-deen. Lid-deen. Using a microphone. You're reading Quran, you're leading salah. This is a part of deen. It's in the masjid. Another thing, biddah doesn't just come in the masjid. Those saying biddah, go home and apply sunnah there too. Biddah is a whole life. Sunnah is a whole life. Not just in the masjid. Okay? Remember that. The next thing, microphone. Is this for deen or in deen? For deen, exactly. Next thing we need to understand. Now we're going into the category of Fid-deen. Again, I don't want to lose everyone, but this is very important. For those understanding, they understand the importance of this. What does it mean to have a bid'ah Fid-deen? I'll give you an example. There are different things in the deen. Sunnah, wajib, fard. There are some things that are fard. You have to do that. It's from the Quran or mutawatir. There are some things that are sunnah. There are some things that are mustahab. Good to do. There are some things that are wajib. If you take any permissible act and believe that to become sunnah, you just created a bid'ah. Yes, Fid-deen. If you take something and think it wajib, you just created a bid'ah. Fid-deen. So we understand another principle from this. Not every action can we say if it's bid'ah if the person doing it knows that it's not a part of deen. Let me give an example. I say to you brothers, brothers, a lot of us are getting out of shape. So from now on, after Fajr, we're going to run a mile in the, on the trail here. And we're also going to do dhikr. We're going to say, La ilaha illallah 100 times while we run. Good thing to do. Dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, is dhikr permissible to do? Simple question. Yes. Are you supposed to do dhikr? Yes. But I just made it specific with running. We're going to run tomorrow and we're going to do dhikr. Tell me when, very calmly, tell me when that would become a bid'ah Fid-deen. When you think that this running every day saying La ilaha illallah is a part of the deen, that it's sunnah, or wajib, or mustahab. See, not just doing it every day. Doing it every day is fine. As long as you're not jahil, and you know, brother, this is not sunnah. This is just a good thing to do. It's not fard, it's not wajib, it's not sunnah. You're not changing anything in the deen. Subhanallah, brothers, think over this. Understand this principle. It will save you from a lot. And you'll be able to help a lot of brothers too. A lot of brothers. When a person thinks, now once everyone has digested this, we're going to go to another type of bid'ah, which is called bid'ah idafiyah. Okay? Not comments. Are there any questions to what I just said? Any questions?
Does this mean that something like this? Sorry.
Exactly.
I've been asking the question: Is this bid'ah? Because I've seen some sheikhs say it's bid'ah.
I'm not doing bid'ah, inshallah.
Thank you.
Brother, good example. Sorry. Sometimes there's actions we do, and our culture has done them so much that everyone now thinks that's a part of deen. This is where we need to be careful of bid'ah. If it's not from the sunnah, you need to understand that this deed is not sunnah whatsoever. Not sunnah whatsoever. But if this deed has become so common in the culture, just the mere doing this act would be bid'ah. Because it's too common now. And everyone thinks that it's a part of deen. Brother, this is what we do. This is our custom. No, this is not a part of deen. Everyone thinks it's a part of deen. Now it has become a bid'ah. Do you get the difference now? This is a very hard, again, this is not for the regular person to decipher. This is for ulama to decipher. Because it's very difficult to judge when it's crossed that line. I'll give you an example. Sometimes there's something that in a culture somewhere else overseas, they do it as a part of deen. In America, it's not a part of deen. No one does it as a part of deen. Again, this topic is too deep for the regular person. But you have enough knowledge now with these basic thing of Lid-deen and Fid-deen to understand why this is just like using the car to come to the masjid. Yes, sister. Question, not comments.
So it would be like, for instance, in Saudi Arabia, where they don't allow the woman to drive. Would that be...
No, that Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when he got all of the people together for Taraweeh, and he saw them all praying together, tell us what he said. Ni'matu bid'ati hadha. You know what he said? What a great bid'ah. Yes. He said, Ni'mati bid'ati hadha. What a great bid'ah this is. Brothers, what more do we need? He said bid'ah. Listen to this. He said bid'ah, but it's actually sunnah. Why? Because Rasulullah said, grab my sunnah and the sunnah of my khulafa ar-rashideen. So he's saying, what a beautiful bid'ah, and it becomes sunnah. Now that is restricted to their time. Because the Prophet said, follow them, their sunnah is my sunnah. So that is restricted. But the wording is what I'm trying to show you. He called it a bid'ah and said, what a great bid'ah. What that shows you is that there is bid'ah lid-deen and bid'ah fid-deen. There's a difference. There is a difference. Question?
Yes, that is applied to celebrating certain events. I don't want to go into the details.
Yeah, especially when they... A proof that it's so much a part of the person's deen, they feel hurt when they can't do it. This shows that it's become that much embedded into the society. That if we don't do it, now we did something wrong, brother. No, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. Okay? So I hope, inshallah, we went over time. We're done for today. But if there's any questions, not comments get very long and it's going to get late tonight. If there's any questions on bid'ah, lid-deen, fid-deen, brothers, today, inshallah, we'll have it set as a separate lecture on the website that we could just download this lecture. What is bid'ah?
I do have a question.
Yes, ask a question, inshallah.
And some of the hadiths and so forth, is it somewhat like, I don't know, Morocco Egypt, Pakistan,
Uh-huh.
Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Do people have different ways of interpreting the meaning
Yes, brother. For sure.
of the same thing?
Yes, see, listen,
Right.
you have to understand. If I was to tell everyone that they all have to go to DC and there's only one road you can use.
Right.
Everyone go to DC tomorrow, but you only have one road. What's going to happen? Too much.
I just want to clarify that.
What if we say get to DC any way you can? What happens? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made our Sharia vast. There's many ways to get to the same objective, brother. Go in the car, take your GPS and your phone GPS. Put in the same address. Many times you'll get different directions. Does it get you to the same way? Yes. There's different interpretations to the Quran and to the Hadith. But all of this is guiding us to the Sahih, to Jannah.